So, today we are dealing with Greenlights by Matthew McConaughey. God, I really hope you know who Matthew McConaughey is. If you don't, Google is your friend. Google him. Go watch, I wouldn't say Dazed and Confused. Time to Kill is a good one. For a number of years, he was a shirtless rom-com guy. All in all, he's got some really good movies. For those of you that don't know, I listen to a lot of my books, and so this one is actually narrated by him, which was actually really cool. For the most part, I don't really dig Southern accents all that well, particularly Texas accents, because I grew up around them and they tend to annoy me. But his Texas accent is actually very cool and very soothing. But this is a autobiography, so obviously it was written by him. It goes into his childhood, his move to Hollywood, the early years of his career, his adventures, and all that other stuff. His childhood is very interesting, and I'm going to go into some detail about his childhood because his childhood includes something that is severely missing from today's men. I didn't get it, and I'm working on figuring out a way to do it with my son. But his parents, their form of punishment and teaching would probably be called abuse today. They were very heavy-handed, we'll say. And their punishment and teachings and how they view the world led to, and his relationship with them led to how he sees the world and how he dealt with Hollywood and fame. But what he got from his father something that's very interesting. I'm going to go off the rails here for a minute and probably ramble on way longer than I need to about this. But he got a "you are now a man" moment from his dad, where his dad stopped treating him like a child and started treating him like an adult. That is very lacking in today's culture. Today's culture doesn't have it. In almost every other culture out there, particularly tribal cultures like in Africa, and I know African cultures do this, and I know I believe pygmies in the Amazon do this, or the natives in the Amazon, whatever you want to call them. Basically, at an age somewhere between 13 and 16, your young male child is taken off, put through some kind of ritual, doused with whatever, and said, "You are now a man." And then they come back, they're allowed to take wives, they're treated like adults, they're allowed to play in hunts, they're allowed to do all this other stuff. So he got that from his dad, that ritual from there, and listening to it. And you also got to listen to and hear the versions of that ritual that with his other brothers. I think he had two other brothers. I'd have to go back and re-listen to the book, but I believe it's two other brothers. They each got their version of that before his dad passed away. That is very, very, very cool and very, very, very lacking in today's culture. Today's culture, particularly with men in the modern world, it's almost like we're expected just to play video games and not actually learn how to do stuff with our hands. Like lifting weights is largely gone to the wayside. Hell, most of the 18-year-olds that I work out with right now, or most of the 18-year-olds that I work with, not work out with, but work with, I could literally pick up over my head and throw. So, yeah. So, the next aspect that was really interesting from him was his take on fame and how it changed his relationship. He had a very interesting relationship with his mom after he became famous. And he describes the moment that he became famous. Because even after Dazed and Confused, he still wasn't a household name. He got cast in A Time to Kill, which, like I mentioned in the intro to this one, if you haven't seen that one, you need to go see that one. That is an absolutely amazing movie. But he was walking, like, Time to Kill came out on Friday. Thursday, he was walking down to the local deli to get his tuna fish sandwich. I think it's tuna fish, I don't know, whatever. Getting his lunch. Nobody recognized him. Friday came about, movie came out, complete change. Everybody knew him. Everybody knew everything about him. They all wanted to know how his dog was, because apparently his dog was sick and all this other stuff. And he just had a really tough time adjusting to it, and it was crazy. He talked about that for a while. He also talked about his mom didn't really see any issues with sharing all of his dirty laundry with the press whenever they called up. And so he stopped talking to his mom for a little bit until he got a hold of fame and everything else and could deal with it better. Very interesting. It's a very interesting read and very interesting take on life. He goes through a couple of him and I have the same version of dealing with stressful things. We both like to go out in the middle of the woods and get away from everybody and not deal with people. Turn off all the devices, go out in the woods, start a fire, sit out there and contemplate it. He says I've never done one for 10 days. My usual one is about 3 days. And usually that first day, I'm not a very good person and I don't like myself. And usually after that, I start to calm down and I deal with the demons and do that. He's a little bit rougher than I am. He lasts about 3 days of not liking himself, and then he evens himself out and comes back a much better human. He talks about when he wanted to change from romantic comedies to more serious roles because he was typecast as the shirtless rom-com guy. That was a very interesting part of his life, and he talks about that in length in that one as well. All in all, I highly recommend this book. It's a very interesting read. Definitely very different from what I normally read. So, again, very interesting. Highly recommend it. Go check it out on Audible, Amazon, wherever. I'll leave links down in the description and all that other good stuff. Talk to you on the next one.